After being set up, I went to my boyfriend, Edward, for help. Instead, I found him kissing the woman who framed me. Just as I was losing all hope, the city's most powerful heir appeared and offered me a deal to be his contract girlfriend. I accepted. His voice was cool and distant. We kiss at noon, and we sleep together at midnight. We can't go for more than an hour. I'll make you a star in 1 year, and after that, the contract is over. We'll have nothing to do with each other. I nodded. I followed the contract to the letter, even setting an alarm for our rendezvous. The second it went off, I'd kick him out of bed. Time's up. His face would darken. Later, I had given up on love entirely. But the heir wanted to tear up our contract. And Edward kept trying to get me back. My friend Mandy called me while I was in the middle of a full-blown PR nightmare, with scandals swirling all over the internet. "Lily, don't get mad when I tell you this," she said, "but I'm at this party, and I just saw your boyfriend, Edward. He's with that witch, Fiona." My hand holding the phone froze. "Are you sure you're not mistaken?" "No way. She's his date. He was just introducing her to some investors." "Lily, did you two break up? Is Edward her new sugar daddy now? Doesn't he know you and Fiona are mortal enemies?" I didn't have the heart to listen to the rest. As soon as I hung up, my agent burst through the door, a smirk on his face. "Lily, my dear superstar, you and Fiona are tearing each other apart, and the internet is eating it up. Why hasn't the great Edward stepped in to save you yet?" I grabbed my bag and stood up, taking a deep breath. "Don't worry, it'll be handled." My agent warned me that if I didn't get these scandals under control, I'd lose my endorsements, events, and acting roles, and I'd end up deep in debt. I promised him the rumors were all fake. He just laughed. "True or fake, what's the difference? What matters is who has your back. Fiona's coming on strong, and she's got powerful people behind her. You need to get Edward to make a move, and fast." "I know." I drove to the venue where Edward's party was being held. Fiona was an up-and-coming starlet who looked a lot like me. She was gorgeous and had been nicknamed the next Lily. She'd built her entire brand by constantly comparing herself to me. We couldn't stand each other. A little while ago, we were in a historical drama together. I was the female lead, and Fiona was the second lead. There was a fight scene where our characters have a major falling out. During filming, I pushed Fiona as the director instructed, and she went flying right into the river. Someone filmed it and posted it online. With a little help from some shady accounts, the narrative spun into me being a diva who was always bullying Fiona and deliberately pushed her. Right after that, stories from my high school days started leaking, that I stole someone's boyfriend and bullied my classmates. Then someone else claimed my mom was a homewrecker. Suddenly, I was public enemy number 1 online. And through all this, my rich boyfriend of 3 years, Edward, did absolutely nothing. On the way there, I called him. "We can talk about the scandals later." "I'm busy right now," he said, and hung up. He was always like that, making all the decisions. When I got to the party at the suburban estate, I was stopped at the gate. I called Edward again and again. No answer. Through the iron fence, I saw a tall, familiar figure. And next to him was Fiona. The lawn was decorated with beautiful lights and tables of food. Guests mingled everywhere. Edward and Fiona were laughing together on the lawn. So they really were together. A few minutes later, they walked arm in arm into the villa. I tried to follow them, but security stopped me again. Just then, a sleek, understated black car pulled up. An assistant opened the door, and a tall, slender young man stepped out. He had striking dark features and incredibly pale skin. He was wearing a uniquely designed black suit in a traditional style, with silver clouds embroidered on the cuffs and a dragon subtly woven into the fabric. On his pale wrist was a string of Buddhist prayer beads, each engraved with tiny characters. "Sir," I called out, gathering my courage and jogging over to him. "Could you take me inside? I'm not a bad person." His assistant blocked my path, his voice cold. Please step aside. Clatter. The prayer beads on the man's wrist snapped, scattering all over the ground. A few beads rolled to my feet. I bent down to pick them up. Sir, you dropped your beads. The man stared at my face for a long time before speaking, his voice cool. What's your name? Lily, I said. Lily Lynn. I'll take you in, he said. Once inside the villa, I saw Mandy was still there. She led me to a lounge area. The door was slightly ajar. I could hear a woman's flirtatious laughter and the sound of people egging someone on. I pushed the door open. Edward and Fiona were kissing while others watched and cheered. Hearing the noise, the whole group turned to look at me. Instinctively, Edward pushed Fiona away and stood up, surprised. Lily? I bit my lip hard, finally managing to speak. Edward, you're kissing Fiona? He rubbed his temples. What are you doing here? I didn't say anything. Edward lit a cigarette and sank into the sofa, his dark eyes calm. What do you want? I clenched my fists. Why are you with Fiona? Edward put out his cigarette, his gaze turning cold. Are you questioning me? I froze. If you want to stay with me, Edward continued, you'll go home right now. Understand? My body trembled slightly. The internet was flooded with scandals about me and Fiona. Anyone who was paying attention knew we were at war. And in my darkest hour, Edward was hooking up with another woman. And that woman was Fiona. I just didn't get it. Why are you with Fiona behind my back? I kept asking, unable to let it go. Someone else snickered. Looks like your words don't work on her anymore, Edward. At that, Edward's face hardened. Get out. Don't you understand English? Even at a moment like this, all he cared about was his pride. My lips trembled. Edward, we're done. With that, I turned and walked out of the room. The people behind me were shocked for a second, then burst out laughing. Wow, the great Edward just got shut down in public. Edward stood there stunned for a moment, then his voice turned menacing. Lily, if you walk out that door, don't you ever come back. I paused for a beat, then walked away even faster. I could hear their jeers behind me. We call her the boss's girl, and she really starts thinking she's something special? Don't worry about it, Edward. Lily can't survive without you. All she wants is money. Give her a leading role, and she'll come crawling back to you. I went straight to Edward's villa and packed up my things. I didn't take a single thing he'd ever bought me. Back in my own rented apartment, I dropped my suitcase, didn't turn on the lights, and just sat on my bed, hugging my knees and staring into space. I got with Edward when I was still in college. I was young, beautiful, and the undisputed top girl in the acting department. A photo from my first day of school went viral online. Edward was a famous rich kid, handsome, charming, and full of life. He was the one who pursued me. He was more than willing to shower me with money and resources. After a year of his relentless pursuit, I finally agreed to be with him. He would visit me on set and call me baby. He sent me flowers and necklaces and would gently kiss my forehead. Having never been in a relationship, I thought this was love. So I said yes. Later, I became famous. If he told me not to take a role, I wouldn't. If he asked me to be the face of his brand, I did it without a second thought. If he was drunk at 3 a.m., one call and I'd be up and out the door to get him. When he was seriously injured in a car race, I gave up a fantastic movie role to take care of him for 2 months straight. That's how our relationship worked for 3 years. Everyone thought I only got famous because of Edward. They forgot that I was an internet sensation the day I started college, with countless agencies trying to sign me. They definitely didn't remember everything I did for him. And still, Edward never learned to respect me. The online crisis was still raging. I pulled myself out of my slump and started fighting back, working on my own PR. Breaking up with him that day was impulsive, I admit. But when Edward didn't even bother to call and apologize, my heart turned to ice. This time, I wouldn't use any of his resources. I gathered evidence and got my old high school classmates to speak out for me. I posted my mom's divorce certificate to prove she was the one who was cheated on, not the other woman. After a few days of hard work, the tide of public opinion started to turn. With a little more time and effort, everything would be fine. I could finally relax. After a long day, I got home that evening to a call from Edward, whom I hadn't heard from in days. He was slurring his words. "Lily, get over here and keep me company. Now." A pang of sadness hit me. "Edward, we already broke up." I could hear a commotion in the background. "Whoa, Edward, she doesn't want to come? Does she think she's too good for you now?" It was Fiona's voice. I gripped my phone tighter. "I'll bet $5,000 she shows up. I'll bet 50 cents she doesn't. You're about to lose 50 cents. A burst of laughter erupted from the group. I quickly hung up. I took some time to calm down, washed up, and went to bed, ignoring Edward completely. The next day, as soon as I got to my office, Edward was there, his eyes filled with a cold fury. "Lily, are you trying to defy me?" I replied, "Edward, who is defying whom here?" He frowned. "Are you really making a scene over Fiona?" "It was just for show, a favor to a friend." I let out a bitter laugh. Even now, he didn't think he'd done anything wrong. The problems between us were about so much more than just Fiona. Didn't he realize that? I was too tired to explain. "You should go. We have nothing to do with each other anymore." A look of disbelief crossed Edward's face. After a long pause, he said, "Fine. We're broken up. We'll see how you do without me." He stormed out of the office. I bit my lip hard, refusing to let the tears fall. Edward had an incredibly domineering personality. When he got angry, he would crush anyone who crossed him. Soon enough, the projects I was on had their funding pulled by Edward, and my career came under attack. Within a month, all my endorsements and appearances were cancelled. The lead role I had landed was given to Fiona, and I couldn't even get a bit part. All my TV show appearances and events were axed. The internet was once again flooded with negative stories about me. Meanwhile, Edward was making high-profile appearances with Fiona. Everyone knew Edward had completely cast me aside. My agent told me that I would have to compensate the company for all the losses I had caused. All told, it came out to nearly $10 million. Then he hinted at another option. If I was willing to sleep with Old Man Dong, the debt could be wiped clean. I refused. The agent sneered, "You've been selling yourself for years. Why pretend to be so pure now?" I was stunned. "Who's been selling themselves?" He raised an eyebrow. "You, of course. Haven't you been selling yourself to Edward this whole time?" It finally dawned on me why Edward treated me the way he did. Ordering me around when we were dating. Feeling no guilt when he cheated. And after we broke up, he could crush me without a second thought for our 3 years together. It turned out he saw me as someone for sale, just like everyone else. How laughable that I was the only one who thought we were in a relationship. Back in my apartment, I again sat in the dark, hugging my knees, feeling drowsy and numb. I don't know how much time passed before my phone rang. It was Edward. I didn't answer. The phone went silent for a moment, then started ringing again. This went on for about half an hour. I finally picked up and heard Edward's voice, thick with suppressed anger. "You're not answering my calls? Are you rebelling now?" I said, "What do you want?" There was a pause on his end. "Move back in. I can forgive you." He said it so casually, as if the devastating blow he'd dealt me was just a light slap. As if after he was done, all he had to do was say come back, and I would come running back to him. "Edward," I said, my voice calm as tears streamed down my face, "we're over." Edward's tone turned dark. "I hear you're going to be with some old man. What's so bad about me that you'd rather be with him than come back to me?" I wiped away my tears. You're right. I'd rather be with some old man than be with you. Edward flew into a rage. I hung up the phone, thought for a second, and then blocked his number. Honestly, I had kept his number because a small part of me held on to a fantasy that he would apologize to me. But now I realized, even if he did, I wouldn't need it anymore. My heart was dead. There was nothing left to miss. Edward continued to have people come after me. In the face of his power, I was completely helpless. I never thought Edward could be so cruel. It was as if I had never been his girlfriend, never cared for him when he was vulnerable, and he had never held my hand and promised to marry me. It was as if I was his most hated enemy. My agent became Edward's messenger, hinting that if I just went back to him, everything would return to how it was before. I refused. The Edward of today only brought me pain and despair. A few miserable days passed, and things only got worse. The debt was suffocating me. My name was being dragged through the mud. That day, I filled the bathtub with hot water and walked in holding a small knife. Just as I was about to slit my wrist, my phone suddenly rang. It was an unknown number. A deep, pleasant male voice came through the line. Ms. Lin, I heard you're in a difficult situation. I can help you. I clutched the phone like a lifeline. Who are you? Why would you help me? How can you help me? The man's voice was cool and calm. Would you be my girlfriend? I arrived at a secluded private club and walked across a thick wool carpet into a spacious, private room. A man stood with his back to me. Hearing me enter, he slowly turned around, revealing a handsome, pale face. I recognized him instantly. It was the man who had brought me into the villa at the party. Ms. Lin, he introduced himself, my name is Julian Han. I was stunned. Julian Han. That was the name of the legendary, mysterious heir of the city's most elite circle. As flawless as jade, with a naturally aloof disposition. So it was him. Rumor had it he'd been in poor health since birth and only started to recover after taking up Buddhism and Taoism. I was surprised that a man like him, who could have any beautiful woman he wanted, would choose a scandal-plagued actress to be his girlfriend. Especially since we had only met once. I asked curiously, why me? Because our destinies are intertwined. Julian explained. That day, in front of the party, his prayer beads had snapped right in front of me. It was completely unexpected. Afterward, he went to a master to have his fortune read. The master determined that I was his destined person. When he had my birth date and time analyzed, he discovered that we were a perfect match, which would be beneficial for his health and well-being. His family found out and pressured him to pursue a relationship with me, which led to today's meeting. Julian proved his identity and handed me a contract. We'll be in a contractual relationship for 1 year. After that, we go our separate ways. During this year, I will help you clear all your debts and make you famous. How about it? I looked down, my fingers clenching. Then I took a breath and looked up. Deal. I was ready to die. Why would I be afraid of selling myself? If I had to sell myself, I might as well choose someone young, handsome, and who could actually help me. Julian added, I have some requirements. We cannot meet at the beginning of the month, we can only meet after the 15th. We kiss at noon, and we sleep together at midnight. The latter cannot exceed 1 hour, is that acceptable? Yes. I must have answered too quickly because he seemed a bit uneasy. When we're not supposed to meet, we don't meet. You can't be clingy. When you're not supposed to touch me, you don't touch me. Don't worry, I won't, I said, shaking my head. Edward had already destroyed all my fantasies. It's best not to get involved with men who are so far out of your league. No expectations, no disappointments. From this day forward, I was Julian's contract girlfriend. Love had nothing to do with it. I signed the contract and went home. My agent was waiting in my apartment. Lily, he said, Edward asked me to ask you if you've learned your lesson yet. I put my bag down, my voice flat. What lesson am I supposed to have learned? My agent sighed as he sat on the sofa. Does it matter who's right or wrong? What matters is that if you don't admit you're wrong, Edward will keep crushing you. That's just how this industry works. I said stubbornly, either way, I did nothing wrong. My agent finally lost his patience. Why don't you get it? The only reason Edward is being so harsh is to force you to come back to him. He likes you. I was surprised for a moment, then I couldn't help but laugh. You call this like? If someone's like means destroying your career and turning you into a trophy girlfriend. Letting people mock you, ordering you around, and feeling no guilt for cheating. I'd rather not have that kind of like. Unable to persuade me, my agent left in frustration. I hesitated for a moment, then dialed Julian's number. Ms. Lin? I tested the waters. Mr. Han, about the scandals. I've already sent people to handle it. His voice was cool and collected, filled with a power that inspired confidence. I slept soundly that night. Overnight, all the negative stories about me vanished. My endorsements, events, and roles were all restored. Even the lead role that Fiona had snatched from me was mine again. I felt a mix of complicated emotions. Edward could crush me with ease. And the problems that had driven me to despair, that had left me breathless, were just as easily solved by Julian. And me? I was powerless to do anything. The 15th of the month. The day of my date with Julian. I carefully applied my makeup and headed out with my bag. As I got downstairs, I saw a familiar yellow supercar. Edward got out, his face dark as he looked me over, then he sneered. Found a new sugar daddy? Is some old man better than me? I looked at him uneasily. Edward moved closer. After a moment, he said, Lily, come back to me. I'll make you a star from now on. I was taken aback. What about Fiona? She was just a fling, he said. And was I just a fling before? I asked. Edward frowned. No. After a pause, he rubbed his forehead. Fine, I apologize. Let's put this all behind us. You come back. He looked incredibly uncomfortable, as if lowering his head to apologize had wounded his pride. I looked at him, the grievances inside me threatening to burst out. Edward, we already broke up. You crushed me, made me lose my job, put me millions in debt, ordered me around, and let your friends mock me. What makes you think a simple, I'm sorry, is enough to make me come back? You think you can just wipe the slate clean whenever you feel like it? Edward was stunned. I forcefully shook his hand off me and ran towards the parking lot. I sat in my car for a while, composing myself before driving to the location Julian and I had agreed on. The apartment was in a bustling downtown area, over 2,000 square feet. When I walked in, I saw Julian sitting in a solo armchair by the floor-to-ceiling window, a book in his hand. The serene atmosphere quickly calmed me down. Mr. Han, I said. The documents on the table, sign them, Julian said. I obediently walked over to the table. On it was a property deed. What's this? I asked, surprised. This apartment is yours now. You can move in whenever you want. From the 15th of each month onward, we'll meet here. Julian stood up. Let's have lunch first. At 12 o'clock, we kiss. I remembered the contract. Kiss at noon, sleep together at midnight. Apparently, the times were calculated by a master. They had to be strictly followed. I asked, why 12 o'clock? Julian said seriously, it's when the yang energy is strongest. My mood, which had been a complete mess because of Edward, suddenly turned into amusement. Julian had solved my career crisis and given me an apartment. I had to show some sincerity too. So I set 4 alarms on my phone. I had to make sure the kiss happened right at 12 o'clock. Julian took me to lunch. It was at the same private club where we first met. The environment was quiet and peaceful, and the food they served was all my favorite. I suspected Julian had researched my preferences. Edward would never do something like that. The meal was quiet but not awkward. Julian had a strange, comforting quality about him. With him, I completely forgot about Edward. The alarm in my bag went off. I took out my phone to check. Mr. Hahn, it's 11:30. We need to get ready to kiss. Julian's expression tightened slightly. You're that eager to kiss me? My face flushed, and I explained, didn't you want to kiss exactly at 12? Soon after, the second alarm rang. I reminded him, Mr. Hahn, it's 11:50. Julian was silent for a moment. You don't need to keep reminding me. What if we miss the time? I said. Better to get it done early. He frowned slightly and stood up. I followed him out the door. We walked down a long, quiet corridor and into a courtyard filled with flowers and plants. It was silent and empty. The scent of the plants was refreshing. The third alarm rang. 11:59. I quickly ran in front of Julian. Wait. It's almost 12. Julian stopped. I watched the time, and just as the 12 o'clock alarm rang, I wrapped my arms around his neck and pressed my lips firmly against his. His lips were cool and soft. Julian seemed stunned, a blush creeping up his ears before he quickly regained his composure. A moment later, he said, "Follow me." Then he turned and walked away. His expression was completely indifferent. I followed him back to the downtown apartment, feeling anxious. We didn't say much on the way. I reminded myself that we were just in a contract relationship and would go our separate ways in a year. He had been so good to me, and I had gotten carried away. Was he angry with me? At 2 in the afternoon, my agent suddenly called. Lily, are you seeing someone? I didn't know how to answer. Pictures of you two are all over the internet. I was shocked. He added, Edward saw the pictures of you kissing another man. He's furious. I frowned. What did Edward have to do with anything? My agent told me someone had posted the photos of me and Julian kissing online. Before he could even do any damage control, the photos suddenly disappeared. I wasn't affected at all. Lily, I don't care how many men you mess around with in private, but you can't get caught, and it definitely can't end up online, understand? My agent warned. I nodded. Also, Edward is furious. I had to laugh. What right does he have to be angry? We're broken up. My agent said, his power is not to be underestimated unless you find a sugar daddy even more powerful, but your current one seems pretty capable. The picture was posted by a huge gossip account, and it was deleted in less than half an hour. All the reposts were gone too. After the call, I walked over to the study and knocked on the door. Come in. I entered the room and apologized. I didn't know we were being photographed. I'm sorry for causing you trouble. Julian was looking at his computer behind the desk, not even looking up. It's not your fault. That club is usually secure. The commotion in the courtyard today was probably caused by someone following me. He paused and looked up. I don't care if the photos were posted. You're the one who's going to have a hard time. I was taken aback. He was actually concerned about me? My mood inexplicably improved. After thinking for a moment, I carefully asked him, Mr. Hahn, were you angry when I kissed you today? He looked at me with his dark eyes. Why would I be angry? As long as he wasn't angry. I breathed a sigh of relief. Julian went back to his work, and I went to the guest room to sleep. In a daze, my phone rang again. It was my agent. What is it? I asked sleepily. There was no answer, but the background sounded noisy. A moment later. Who is that man? The hoarse, suppressed voice snapped me awake. Edward? I said. What's it to you? I couldn't believe my agent would give his phone to Edward. Even though I'd told him countless times that Edward and I were done. I was furious and decided I needed to find a new agent. Edward exploded, Lily, you cheated on me. You're with another man. I had no idea how he had the nerve to say something like that. He was the one who cheated, who looked down on me from the start. We were already broken up, and now he was acting like he had the right to question me. Edward, are you jealous? I asked him. You're not happy to see me with another man? No. Edward denied it. Who the hell do you think you are, making me jealous? I repeated, we are broken up. From now on, whether I'm with some old man or dating someone else, it has nothing to do with you. You have no right to be angry. Edward gritted his teeth. Lily, even if we're broken up, you're not allowed to be with other men. I was speechless. That Edward could say something like that was both unexpected and completely in character. He always acted like he was the center of the universe, that the world had to revolve around him. For 3 years, I had catered to his every whim, to the point where he saw me as his property. There was no point in arguing. I hung up and blocked the number. The beeping sound came from the phone. Edward, furious, smashed the phone to pieces. The agent pushed up his glasses and said helplessly, Edward, that was my phone. Get out. Edward roared. The agent picked up his shattered phone and left. Everyone else in the room was silent as a mouse. Fiona sidled up to him, her arm wrapping around his shoulder, her voice soft and seductive. Edward, I heard Lily slept with old man Dong from our company. The man in the picture looks unfamiliar. I wonder how many sugar daddies she has. Edward's face was dark as he slowly looked up at Fiona. Fiona kept slandering Lily. Edward, don't waste your anger on someone who doesn't matter. Who knows how many beds Lily has climbed into to get where she is, how many men have been on top of her. She's not worth it. Edward couldn't help but think. This was all because of this woman. This woman who looked so much like Lily. One night when he was drunk, she wore the same clothes as Lily and seduced him, and that's how he made the mistake. He felt a little guilty when he woke up, but he quickly let it go. Lily was just his trophy girlfriend. In their circle, what man was controlled by his kept woman? Playing around a bit on the side and then coming back home, as long as you didn't have any illegitimate children, you were considered a top-notch guy. He used to be a wild player, changing girlfriends every month. Lily had been with him for 3 whole years, and in those 3 years, he hadn't touched another woman. He had been good enough to her. He never thought Lily would leave him so decisively, that no amount of threats or persuasion would bring her back. If it weren't for this woman, Fiona, stirring up trouble, everything would have been fine. Lily's mom was a homewrecker, and the daughter of a homewrecker is just trash. Like mother, like daughter. She was seducing guys from a young age. In high school, she even stole someone's boyfriend and bullied others. Her mind is completely twisted. Enough. Edward suddenly snapped, looking coldly at Fiona. You're the trash. Fiona's mouth fell open as she stared at him in shock. Everyone else exchanged nervous glances. The atmosphere turned icy. Edward grabbed a handful of Fiona's hair, his eyes vicious. If you dare say one more bad word about Lily, get the hell out. It hurts. Fiona begged for mercy in pain. Edward didn't let go, his eyes blazing with fury. Who the hell do you think you are? Daring to badmouth her in front of me? You're the real piece of trash, and you have the nerve to slander others. His grip was so tight that Fiona's face contorted in pain. She quickly apologized, I'm sorry, I won't say it again. Edward snorted and pushed her away like a piece of garbage, then stood up. Everyone was stunned. The room was completely silent. Edward, if you really miss her, how about I go and personally invite her back for you, one of the other rich kids offered. No need. Edward said coldly. There are plenty of women in the world. It's not like I can't live without her. Who did Lily think she was? Could he not survive without Lily? Edward bent down, grabbed Fiona's hair again, and dragged her up like a dead dog. Isn't there a fake look-alike right here? A pure school beauty, no less. They look so similar, they're probably the same to use. A fake? Fiona's face instantly turned ashen. Her body trembled uncontrollably. You're spoiling the mood. Edward threw Fiona aside and strode out of the room. Edward. Fiona stumbled after him. Someone behind her sneered, don't bother chasing him. Can't you see Edward doesn't like you? She's just a classic mean girl, thinking she could push Lily out and take her place. It's not that simple. She was just trashing Lily to Edward, haha. Does she think we're all idiots and she's the only smart one? When Edward wanted to play with you, we gave you some respect. We just pretended not to see your little schemes. But now, I'd advise you to tone it down. Be a good little fake, and try to keep our Edward happy. Fiona's face turned shades of green and white, her eyes welling with tears as she bit her lip hard. The night passed. After dinner, Julian and I went back to the apartment. We had been together all day, and besides eating, we hadn't gone out. But for a man and a woman alone in a room together, it was surprisingly chaste. I even started to suspect that in Julian's mind, just being under the same roof constituted a date. The minutes ticked by, and soon it was 11 p.m. Julian came out of the study, his voice cool. It's time for business. I flinched slightly. Yes, it was time for business. The moment I signed the contract, I had prepared myself. But Julian's demeanor was so businesslike, so devoid of any romantic feeling. It left me at a loss. He walked over, his dark eyes gazing at me. Are you willing? There was no reason not to be. I took a quiet breath and nodded. He reached out to touch my face. His fingers were ice cold. I leaned back slightly. Wait. Julian stopped. I picked up my phone and set an alarm. The contract says no more than an hour. I remember. Julian's expression was a little strange. You're not going to set an alarm every time we kiss or do this, are you? I said it like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Of course. It's in the contract, and the times calculated by the master must have some great significance. We have to follow it. By the way, when does the clock start? Julian looked slightly confused. What? Seeing he didn't understand, my face grew hot. Does the timer start with the foreplay, or with the main event? He took a deep breath. No timer needed. That won't work. I insisted. Everything has to be done according to what the master said. Finally, for the first time, a look of annoyance crossed the proud, aloof nobleman's face. The timer starts with the main event. So, when we got to the crucial moment, I quickly yelled stop and set a countdown timer. 1 hour. Julian's face was grim, and the pressure in the room was immense. I don't know if he was trying to punish me, but he was a bit rough. Before the alarm even went off, it was all over. I glanced at my phone, pleased. Oh, we still have half an hour left. Looks like there's plenty of time. We won't need to set an alarm in the future. After I said that, I noticed Julian's face was extremely dark, and I swallowed the rest of my words. Julian wasn't in good health, so maybe he wasn't very capable. My words probably hurt his pride. After a while, the nobleman said through gritted teeth, it was my first time. His voice held a hint of grievance. I was floored. Julian was in his 20s, handsome and rich, and he was still a virgin. Today, when you kissed me, Julian added, that was my first kiss too. I had taken Julian's first kiss and his first time. My feelings were a bit complicated. I felt that as the more experienced one, I should take on the responsibility of comforting him. So, I patted his shoulder reassuringly. So it was your first time. It's okay, everyone's fast the first time. Julian looked up and stared at me. Then, he stormed out of the room. He didn't come back all night. I froze, realizing I should probably stop trying to comfort him. The more I comforted, the angrier he got. So I just washed up and went to bed. Afterward, Julian told me it was his first relationship. His health had always been poor, and he'd never been intimate with a woman before, which is why But he didn't think he was lacking in ability. He was sure he had great potential for the future. My mouth twitched. Of course, I said soothingly. When Julian first threw that contract at me, I thought he was the same as Edward. Now I realized they were completely different. One was a player who charmed everyone at first, but over time you discover his terrible temper and a ton of flaws. The other was a good boy, who seemed cold and unapproachable at first, but once you got to know him, you found he was easy to get along with, and in some ways, even a bit naive. Julian was hung up on his initial failure. He disappeared for 2 days and came back with his usual noble and cool demeanor. But having seen his other side, I wasn't afraid of him at all anymore. After a very proper date, midnight arrived. This time, his performance improved dramatically. I reminded him of the time. He ignored me. The alarm went off. I quickly pushed him away and said, "Time's up." Julian's face was incredibly dark. He stormed out of the room again, furious, and didn't come back all night. I knew he was unhappy, but I didn't dare let him do as he pleased. When Edward was feeling emotional, he promised to marry me, then forgot all about it and continued to treat me like a plaything. Verbal promises are never as good as what's written in black and white. Unless Julian himself revised the contract, I would only do what was stipulated in the agreement. It was storming outside. Fat raindrops hammered against the glass. Fiona finished her shower, took off her clothes, and climbed into bed, her eyes full of seduction. Edward. Edward stared at her face, lost in thought for a moment, then pulled her into his arms. Then he roughly pushed her away. "What's that smell on you?" Fiona froze, sniffing herself. "There's no smell." Edward raised an eyebrow in annoyance. "Go take another shower." Fiona bit her lip, forcing a smile. "Okay, just a moment." She rushed into the bathroom and furiously lathered herself with shower gel, cursing Edward under her breath over the sound of the running water. These days, Edward's patience with her was wearing thinner and thinner. Being ordered around was the least of it. He often mocked her and his demands were impossibly high. She had never had to wait on anyone before, and she was often scolded until her eyes were red. Edward would then harshly reprimand her. "Lily could do it, why can't you?" So dramatic. She tried her best, serving him like a maid, but she could never get a satisfactory review. She didn't get many of the resources she wanted either. Because Edward was completely self-absorbed, caring only about himself and no one else. If she dared to ask him for money or resources, he would mock her and refuse. She had to constantly drop hints until he finally understood, and then he might grudgingly give her something. She was about to lose her mind. Sometimes Fiona wondered if Lily had suffered just as much when she was with Edward. If she had known what Edward was really like behind closed doors, she never would have been so jealous and schemed to take Lily down and take her place. What was the point of all this? After scrubbing her skin until it was nearly raw, Fiona composed herself, put on a smile, and walked out. Edward. A moment later, Edward kicked her out of the bed. Fiona hit the floor hard, her whole body aching as if it had fallen apart. "What are you doing?" She couldn't help but ask, her voice full of hurt. "Why did you kick me?" Edward frowned. "I kicked you because I felt like it." "You dare yell at me? Who do you think you are?" Fiona bit her lip hard, desperately trying to control her emotions. Edward said, "I told you to get clean, and you couldn't do it. Now you're blaming me? Useless. Get out." Fiona quickly left the room, tears streaming down her face. She couldn't take it anymore. Inside the room, Edward lit a cigarette and walked over to the floor-to-ceiling window, staring blankly at the city lights in the distance. A beautiful face seemed to appear in the darkness. "Lily?" he said, startled, reaching out, but the face vanished. He slumped to the floor in defeat. At that moment, he finally understood. He really couldn't live without Lily. He had people investigating the man behind Lily recently, but no matter how hard they looked, they couldn't find any information. When Lily made her comeback and her career got back on track, he found out it was his own father who had given the order. He misunderstood and rushed home to have a huge fight with his father. Only later did he learn that his father wasn't Lily's sugar daddy. As for who had asked his father to step in, his father wouldn't say, only telling him to stay away from Lily. That's when he realized Lily had found someone more powerful than him. This discovery left Edward feeling incredibly dejected. Edward stopped meddling in Lily's affairs and tried to go back to his playboy lifestyle. But he couldn't find the old feeling anymore. Now, on this rainy night, he finally had to admit that he had always been in love with Lily. The things Lily had said to him suddenly echoed clearly in his mind. "Edward, you crushed me, put me millions in debt. What makes you think an apology can just wipe the slate clean? Edward, I broke up with you, and it wasn't just because of Fiona. You never saw me as an equal, only as your trophy girlfriend." Edward rubbed his face in agony. He knew he was wrong. So, should he just give her a proper apology? She had loved him for 3 years. She probably wouldn't be that heartless. Julian and I were in a strange place. He was not one to give up easily. He started pulling me into practice sessions frequently to prove his abilities. This went on for 2 months. Eventually, I had to admit I had spoken too soon. If it weren't for the time limit, I'd be struggling to keep up. Thank goodness for alarms and stopwatches. The moment the alarm went off, I would push him away, remind him that time was up, and tell him to leave. Julian's expression grew darker and darker. But I wasn't afraid. I was following the contract and his requirements to the letter. What was I doing wrong? Julian wasn't Edward. Even if he was furious, he wouldn't take it out on me. He seemed to sense my apprehension and started trying to actually date me. But he had no idea how to date. He didn't know what to do when we were together. Later, he looked up some guides and wanted to take me out for dinner and a movie. But I was a famous actress, and he was a top-tier heir. If we went out on a date like normal people, it would cause a massive stir. Neither of us wanted that. And he didn't want to take me to the usual haunts for the rich and famous, as that would be a public declaration of our relationship. So, we ended up just being homebuddies in the apartment. I moved out of my old apartment and into the one he gave me, afraid that my agent would give the key to Edward. After he gave his phone to Edward that one time, I lost all trust in him. After moving in, with nothing much to do, Julian and I got a dog and a cat. We built a doghouse and a cat condo for them with our own hands. Julian even built a small house for the dog himself. He was very good with his hands. After finishing the doghouse, Julian got really into it and started building a cat tree. While he worked, I helped him. Time passed surprisingly quickly and happily. With him, I would forget I was a famous actress, that he was the city's top heir, and even forget about the contract. By September, my schedule became packed. I had to go on set for a new role, and I'd be gone for at least a month. "Mr. Hahn, I might not be able to see you next month," I explained over the phone, feeling nervous. What if he was like Edward and wouldn't let me go? With my current standing, I couldn't handle the wrath of 2 top-tier heirs like Edward and Julian. "Call me Julian," the voice on the other end said. "Oh," I returned the favor, "then you can call me Lily." "Lily," Julian said. His voice was cool and clean, but when he said my name, it had a lingering, intimate quality. It made my ears burn. He said, "Focus on your filming, make sure you rest, and remember to eat." As if he knew what I was thinking, he added, "I'll take good care of the cat and dog." My heart warmed. Okay. I packed my bags and went to the filming location. On set, I ran into Fiona again. I was originally the lead, she had stolen my role through dirty tricks, and now I had taken it back. The behind-the-scenes battle of our backers was brutal. Now, as enemies meeting again, we were both wary of the powerful people behind each other. We tested the waters a bit but didn't make any real moves. "Ms. Lin," Fiona said with a smile. "Ms. Chen," I replied with a smile of my own. For promotional purposes, we followed the crew's instructions and took a picture together, acting like the best of friends. But in the photo, we weren't standing close at all. We each held a bouquet of flowers, pressing them together in the middle to create a clear dividing line. When the photo was released, the media buzzed with speculation. Our previous fight over the lead role was still fresh in everyone's minds. The scandals about me were a mix of true and false, and Fiona had a reputation for stealing my boyfriend. No one believed we could actually get along. I was constantly looking for a weakness in Fiona, ready to get my revenge. But before I could make a move, Fiona's career imploded on its own. One day, we were resting on set after filming when we heard a commotion outside. The director, Fiona, and others went out joyfully to greet someone. My assistant said, "Edward's here." I walked out and saw Edward striding onto the set, surrounded by an entourage, holding a bouquet of flowers. Fiona was walking beside him, looking proud. When Edward saw me, he stopped, walked quickly over to me, and presented the flowers. "Lily, wishing you great success with your new show." I froze. Everyone else froze too. Fiona's face turned pale. "Edward," she said, her voice filled with hurt. Edward ignored her, his eyes still fixed on me. I frowned. "Edward, what is the meaning of this?" Edward suddenly dropped to one knee, pulled out a ring, and said, "Lily, marry me. I've done a lot of things wrong in the past. After all this time, I realize you're the one I love most. This is my sincerity." I was stunned. Everyone else looked just as shocked. Fiona looked like she was about to faint. After a moment, I came to my senses, glanced at the trembling Fiona beside him, and said, "Proposing to me in front of your girlfriend? That's not a good look." I didn't take his flowers or the ring. I turned and went back to my dressing room. Outside, I could hear Fiona's hysterical screaming. Edward's stunt today had completely humiliated her. My assistant, after watching the drama unfold, came into my room and said, "Edward just slapped Fiona. That witch is finished, ah." The next day, the internet was flooded with stories about Fiona hooking up with men and being a kept woman. This included stories about her deliberately falling into the water to frame me, paying high school classmates to slander me, and stealing roles from other actors. All the dirt on me was cleared up. Fiona became the internet's new public enemy. I called Julian. "Was that you?" Julian paused for a moment. "It wasn't me. I had to consider another possibility. Edward showed up at the set again to try to win me over. Lily, I'm the one who leaked the dirt on Fiona. She framed you, and this is what she deserves. I'm sorry. From now on, let's just be together." I asked him, "So you're saying our breakup was all Fiona's fault? You did nothing wrong?" Edward was taken aback for a moment. "I was wrong too. I'm sorry. I'll make it up to you, Lily." "Make it up to me? Some things can't be made up for." I ignored him. After that, Edward kept coming to harass me. No one dared to stop him, and I couldn't just stop working. It was incredibly annoying. He wasn't doing anything too extreme, so I couldn't get him kicked out. A couple of days later, Fiona's situation escalated quickly. Her involvement with Edward in shady contracts and tax evasion was exposed, and Edward was dragged down with her. He had to leave the set to deal with his own crisis. Edward's company was involved in tax evasion. Some of Fiona's deals were also illegal. The evidence was solid. Fiona's career was completely over. Edward was overwhelmed with problems and could no longer bother me. I didn't believe Edward would expose himself just to take Fiona down. He wasn't that kind of person. Just as I was trying to figure out the truth, Julian made a high-profile appearance on set to visit me. I was shocked. "It's not even the 15th yet." The cool, noble young man just nodded. I asked worriedly, "Aren't we only supposed to see each other after the 15th? Is it okay to meet now?" Julian frowned. "It's fine." His actions really surprised me. That night at dinner, it suddenly clicked. You were angry that Edward proposed to me, weren't you? Is that why you came all the way to the set in such a grand fashion, to declare your sovereignty? Julian didn't say anything. That was a yes. Then I asked him, did you leak the dirt on Edward? Julian said slowly, he likes to make a big scene, doesn't he? I was just helping him out. Damn, this guy is ruthless. My heart started pounding. I desperately tried to remember if I had ever offended him. Just dealing with Edward had almost destroyed me. If Julian decided to come after me, I would be utterly finished. These people, one moment they're all smiles, treating you like a treasure, and the next they can discard you like trash and crush you without a second thought. I once again resolved to get out as soon as the contract was up. Stay far, far away from these untouchable upper-class people. I assured Julian, I have absolutely no lingering feelings for Edward. I didn't agree when he proposed, and there's definitely nothing ambiguous between us. I won't flirt with other men either. During the contract period, I will only be yours. I figured Julian had broken his own rules and traveled all this way to the set because he had heard some rumors and wanted to assert his claim. I didn't dare hope that he liked me. He was probably just like Edward, treating me like a toy that he owned and didn't want anyone else to touch. Julian gave me a long, deep look. I'm not trying to control your actions. Huh. Even after he flew back to Y City, I still couldn't figure out what he meant by that. Fiona was kicked off the set. The role of the second female lead went to a familiar face, Mandy. She hugged me excitedly. Huh, Fiona stole my role before, and now I've stolen hers. What goes around comes around, karma's a bitch. What do you mean, stole? You earned this with your own talent. I was happy too. Mandy was my friend. Working with her was a pleasure. The production had to reshoot all of Fiona's scenes, and since I had a lot of scenes with her character, I had to work extra hard too. Plus, we had to stick to the original schedule, so everyone was working overtime. The director yelled at everyone like they were dogs, but he was always polite to me. When Julian visited me on set that day, he hadn't tried to hide it, and now everyone knew that my backer was Julian Hahn. They also knew who Julian was. My accommodations were upgraded to a luxurious suite closest to the set. The director and producer greeted me with smiles. Ms. Lin, if you need anything at all, just let us know. We'll make sure you get it. I don't have any special requests, thank you. I said quickly. I knew they respected me because they respected Julian, who was behind me, not because of me myself. So I kept a low profile on set and was very polite to everyone. I worked hard, even doing my own stunts for the tough scenes instead of using a double. The director gradually became impressed by me personally, and the male lead, who was a bigger star and a talented actor, was also moved and willing to give me pointers. I was flattered. After Fiona's downfall, my name was completely cleared, and my popularity soared. I successfully got a new agent. The company's marketing resources were now focused on me. The show's promotional activities would often trend on social media. Mandy said I was on the verge of a major breakthrough. One day after work, Mandy and I were laughing and talking as we walked back to the hotel, when I saw a familiar figure at the entrance. Edward. I was about to turn and leave, but he called out, Lily, just a couple of words, then I'll go. He strode up to me, his expression complicated as he looked at me for a moment. Lily, how have you been? I said coldly, that's one. He said, looks like you're doing well. That's two. Time for you to go. I pulled Mandy and started rushing toward the hotel. Edward shouted from behind me, Lily, I'm sorry. I finally know what it feels like to have your funding pulled and be crushed. I heard you had a really tough time, and I had no idea. I'm truly sorry. Thinking about that difficult time brought a sting to my eyes. Back then, if it hadn't been for Julian's call, I would have killed myself. Taking a deep breath, I turned my head and said, I will never forgive you. Some wounds are too deep to be forgiven. Edward gave a bitter smile. I get it. I came today to tell you, don't get too emotionally invested in Julian. I stared at him calmly. He explained, Julian is an only son. With his family background, you understand. I smiled. Are you trying to say my background is too common, that I'm not good enough for him? Just like I wasn't good enough for you? That's not what I mean. That's exactly what you mean. I cut him off. Thanks for the warning, but it's completely unnecessary. Because you already taught me never to have any illusions about people like you. With that, Mandy and I walked into the hotel. Edward's gaze lingered on me for a long time. After he left, I threw myself back into filming. My heart was completely calm. No hope, no disappointment. That's how I felt about Edward, and that's how I felt about Julian. Julian and I just had a contract. My former agent came to see me with a bank card, a gift agreement, and a pile of gemstone jewelry. Compensation from Edward, he said. Seeing those things, I finally started to believe that Edward's apology was sincere. I accepted everything without hesitation and told him, this is enough. From now on, we don't owe each other anything. Julian had already taught Edward a lesson. And Edward had given me so much stuff. I shouldn't hold on to the grudge. After all, behind Edward was the Pei family, and I didn't need to make an enemy of them. Julian could only protect me for a year. A small fry like me should know her place. My former agent left. After that, Edward never came to see me again. My life returned to normal. Filming, making videos, live streaming with fans. I was busy every day. Mandy sighed, Lily, you're really famous now. I felt a little happy inside too. I had finally made it. Ever since Julian flew to the set to see me, I worried he would misunderstand and think I was messing around with other men. So I started sending him daily texts to report my schedule. As a party to a contract, I was always good at being considerate. After the 15th of the month, I happened to have a day off. After a night shoot, I rushed to the airport and caught a red-eye flight back to Y City. It was 3 in the morning when I opened the door to my apartment. Just as I was about to go wash up, the living room lights suddenly turned on. Julian, wearing silk pajamas, walked out of a room, staring at me in surprise. You're back. I was just as shocked. What are you doing here? Didn't I say I'd take care of the pets? Julian said. Oh, right. I thought he would hire a housekeeper. I never expected him to stay in the apartment himself. It was unexpected, but it also made my heart feel warm. Julian asked again, didn't you say you had tomorrow off? What are you doing back here? I said matter-of-factly, of course, I came to see you. A smile spread across Julian's lips, his eyes filled with joy. You're rushing too much, there's no need. I have to fulfill the contract, I said. The light in his eyes dimmed. I was tired and sleepy and didn't notice his change in mood. I went to the bathroom to wash up. After washing up, I went to the guest room to sleep. I set several alarms, hoping to get up early to spend time with Julian, but I ended up sleeping straight through them. Subconsciously, I felt like something was wrong, but since the alarms didn't go off, I felt justified in continuing to sleep. When I finally woke up, it was already afternoon. Seeing the dusky sky outside, I ran my hands through my hair in frustration. Why didn't my alarms go off? I turned to look for my phone and found it was missing. I rushed out of the room and saw Julian sitting by the huge floor-to-ceiling window. The orange light cast a pale golden glow on him, making him look like he was radiating light. Where's my phone? Right here. Julian pointed to the sofa. Your alarms went off. I brought your phone into the living room so it wouldn't disturb your rest. I felt uneasy. We already missed the noon deadline. It's fine, he said with a smile. Let's go get dinner. We went to a high-end Western restaurant. During the meal, he asked me, when are you going back to the set? My flight is at 1 tonight. Julian was taken aback. I explained, I'll head to the airport after we take care of business. There's enough time. Take care of business? You see this as a task? I was surprised. It's what we agreed on in the contract. Julian pursed his lips and said nothing. After dinner, we went up to the rooftop glass terrace to enjoy the night view. The evening breeze was gentle, and the atmosphere was perfect. I was in a great mood. Julian turned to look at me and said, "Let's void the contract." I was shocked. What? He didn't explain further, just told me to change my flight to 8 o'clock and personally drove me to the airport. Are we not taking care of business? I asked carefully. No, he said. As I was about to go through security, I hesitated for a long time and asked him, "Did I do something wrong? Did I make you angry?" He tilted his head. Why do you ask that? You suddenly terminated the contract. Julian gently smoothed my hair. No, you did everything perfectly. Then why? I was really afraid of angering him. If I did, and he decided to come after me, I'd be finished. He said, "Because I want to pursue you seriously, with no contract involved." My eyes widened. Back on set, I was out of it for 2 days straight, messing up my lines several times. What's wrong? Mandy asked me. I shook my head. Nothing. I looked up at the crew and knew I couldn't continue like this. I was holding up the work and affecting everyone else. I'll get it together right now, I said. I forced myself to push Julian out of my head. Edward had pursued me with sweet words just like this, and it lasted for a year. I thought he was sincere, but in the end, he still treated me like a plaything. I shouldn't let a man's words distract me. When Julian said he wanted to pursue me, he was actually serious. He rented a suite near the film set and came to watch me act every day. He also clumsily started giving me gifts, just like other people do. Even though he was doing the same things Edward had done, I found him much more endearing. Of course, I held firm and refused to give in. 3 months later, after filming wrapped, I returned to Y City. I lived in the apartment Julian had given me, and we interacted just like before. Kissing at noon, sleeping together at midnight. At the beginning of the month, I would dutifully disappear. Julian finally seemed to notice something and asked me, "Are you afraid of me?" I wanted to deny it, but looking into his dark eyes, I finally answered honestly, yes. Even though Julian said he would respect my wishes. But if I rejected his advances, would he turn on me like Edward did? Julian gave a wry smile. So, you don't like me? I didn't know how to answer. Julian stared at me for a moment. I understand. I've put too much pressure on you. Soon after, a group of people came and moved all of Julian's things out, even erasing any trace of him ever being there. Except for the doghouse and the cat tree. He never bothered me again. It was like he had vanished from my life. Sometimes I would feel a sense of daze, wondering if I had ever really had something with Julian. It felt like a dream. My career was taking off. The entertainment industry is a winner-take-all world. If you're not famous, you're nothing, and if you have no money, anyone can walk all over you. But once you're famous, countless opportunities come rushing in. Whether you want them or not, they're all laid at your feet, and you make a fortune. I was already considered an A-list rising star. No one dared to look down on me anymore, and no rich kid like Edward could just decide to blacklist me and get away with it. I finally had the power to protect myself. Time passed slowly. Standing at the top, I actually felt a sense of loneliness. This went on for over a year. One day, at the Golden Fish Awards ceremony, I walked the red carpet in a stunning red dress and, under the gaze of thousands, won the award for Best Actress. After receiving the award and going backstage, I suddenly heard a famous actress on the phone, fuming, "You promised I would win the award, what happened?" Something suddenly clicked. On the drive home, I asked my agent, "Is Julian still backing me?" My agent didn't say anything. That was a yes. I covered my eyes and let out a low laugh. What a fool. I couldn't have risen so quickly on my own. Winning awards wasn't just about acting, it was also a battle of capital. I thought my hard work had been recognized, but I had almost forgotten. In the entertainment industry, hard work is just the baseline, because almost everyone works hard. It's not just about acting either. Because many people are very talented. The power of capital is more important. Julian had been quietly supporting me all along. What a fool. I was a fool for thinking I had won through my own efforts, for being so proud. And Julian was a fool for not taking credit for it. If Edward had done something, he would have made sure I knew about it immediately, so I would be grateful. But Julian protected me from behind the scenes, without me even realizing it. The two of them were completely different. Maybe the ending of a relationship with him would be different too. But, did he still like me? I stared out the window at the brightly lit city, lost in thought. I got home. After a year and 2 months. I hesitated for a long time, then dialed that long uncalled number. The call connected. I bit my lip and asked, "Julian?" There was a moment of silence on the other end, then, "It's me." His voice was still cool and clean, with a strange, calming power. Just like that time when I was in the bathtub with a knife, ready to die, and he called and said he could help me. His voice had instantly soothed my despair and fear. Like a god who had come to save me. He made me, a high-profile actress, climb out of the bathtub and go to meet a complete stranger. I stammered, "The weather is really nice today." He said, "It is nice, want to get dinner together?" I burst out laughing. "It's the middle of the night." He chuckled along with me. "You called so suddenly, it made me nervous." I smiled. "See you tomorrow then?" "No. See you in a bit. I'm next door."